It was one of those typical Monday mornings at the office, the kind where the air felt heavy with the reluctant energy of having to start all over. Yale sat at the conference room table, her fingers nervously tapping on the cool, polished wood surface, each tap resonating like a small echo of her internal anxiety. Around her, colleagues exchanged the usual polite nods and sips of coffee, discussing the weekend weather or the latest "did you see that" moment in the news. But not Yale. Today felt different. As she glanced around the room, her eyes fell on Brian, who sat across from her. Brian's face was set in a displeased frown, his shoulders hunched as if he carried not just the weight of the coming work week, but something heavier. Recently, Brian had developed a habit of interjecting sharply, often disagreeing not with logic but with a curt insult or dismissive wave. Pattern familiar to some adults, typically more akin to schoolyard taunts than the collaborative problem-solving expected in their workplace. Yale knew what was at stake. A project deadline loomed, and with it, the opportunity for a promotion she'd been eyeing for months. But she needed Brian's input to make their project a success. His expansive knowledge of the tech landscape was undeniable, even if his ability to work cooperatively had been somewhat questionable of late. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for what she hoped would be a constructive dialogue. The meeting began. Brian's voice was the first to cut through the morning murmur, dismissing a colleague's idea with a comment that was both biting and utterly unhelpful. The room fell into an uneasy silence. Yale felt a familiar knot in her stomach tighten. The impulse to defend her coworker swelled, but her more strategic side reminded her of the stakes. The project, the promotion. The challenge wouldn't just be in managing Brian's outbursts. It would lie in exploring what drove them. Her mind flashed back to an all-too-familiar dinner at her parents' house, where misunderstandings often flared over trivial things, escalating into heated exchanges. She'd learned early how emotions can cloud judgment, how the inability to manage them could create chasms you weren't sure how to bridge. As the conversation stumbled forward, Yale tuned into the cadence of Brian's retorts, searching for something beneath the hostility. Maybe, she thought, this wasn't about the ideas on the table at all. It was, perhaps, about something more deeply and personally unsettling. Over the next few weeks, the tension between them continued to build, each interaction like adding a new weight to an already straining shelf. Yale could see it was affecting the team, their collective creativity stunted by the discord. Then one afternoon, as the sun lowered in the sky casting long shadows across the office floor, Yale caught a rare moment alone with Brian. She noticed he was clicking through reports, brows furrowed, his usual bravado replaced with an almost vulnerable silence. Taking a bold leap, she asked if he might walk with her to grab a coffee. He hesitated, eyes flickering almost imperceptibly, but then nodded. As they walked down the bustling street, Yale spoke candidly of her desire for the team to excel, of how they couldn't afford to pull in different directions. To Brian, she said something different, something unexpected. "I noticed things have been tough on you," she offered gently, with no judgment in her voice, just open curiosity. "What's really going on?" Initially he shrugged, the way people do when they're not yet willing to let you in. But Yale didn't press. They continued their walk, and gradually, Brian began talking, his pace slowing, as if the words themselves weighed him down. He spoke of personal pressures, of expectations unmet, of feeling undervalued despite his efforts. The vulnerability in his voice revealed a root deeper than workplace disagreements. It was a story Yale understood all too well. This moment became a turning point. Weeks later, back in the familiar confines of the conference room, Yale watched as Brian presented his ideas with a newfound calm. The barbs that once cut through talks were replaced with questions and constructive feedback. The atmosphere shifted, a slight crack forming in the tension that once pervaded. It wasn't instantaneous perfection, far from it, but the conversations changed subtly, the focus shifting back towards solutions and shared goals. With each constructive exchange, it was as if they collectively rediscovered their team's potential. Yale learned that day the power of empathy in professional interactions, the way seeing beyond the surface could transform a dynamic from adversarial to collaborative. It was about transcending judgment and moving into understanding, a lesson with far-reaching implications beyond just their projects. The project deadline came and went, not perfectly, but successfully enough. Brian, now more a partner than an obstacle, had helped navigate snags Yale couldn't have anticipated. As the glow of their accomplishments settled in, she realized something profound about the way they'd grown, not just in meeting deadlines, but in speaking to and understanding the heart of their challenges. Finally, the awaited moment arrived, the meeting in which promotions were discussed. Yale was nervous, her hands steady though clutching onto hope as tightly as she did her prepared notes. Her thoughts were a carousel of what-ifs until the decision finally came down in her favor. Leaving that meeting, newly promoted, her mind unwaveringly drifted back to her conversation with Brian. Had she merely brushed him off, returned insult for insult, her journey might have been different. Her career might have stalled in a stalemate of silent hostilities. Instead, she'd found that acknowledging what lay behind a person's outward demeanor could make all the difference, not just for them, but for you. It allowed for transformation, both personal and professional. Thus, Yale carried forth this wisdom into every future challenge, letting go of the simplistic notion of arguments and insults. She embraced the more complex, often messy path of true understanding and empathy, a subtle yet powerful thread that reinforced every decision, every collaboration, every success. In this new chapter of her career, Yale knew that to lead meant bridging gaps, finding common ground, even where differences seemed insurmountable. And in doing so, she didn't just become a better leader, she became a better version of herself, a truth she now shared with others, helping them see beyond what was simply there, guiding them toward what could be. Yale's approach emphasized listening deeply to others, not merely waiting for her own turn to speak. This shift wasn't just about changing her communication style, it was a complete reevaluation of the way she interacted with the world. Over time, Yale noticed a remarkable transformation in her team's dynamics. Collaboration flourished, and what were once insurmountable hurdles became opportunities for innovation and growth. Her story became an inspiration to many, a narrative of resilience, openness, and newfound strength in vulnerability. Yale often spoke about how true leadership is about empowerment, encouraging others to find their voices and use them in meaningful ways. Her empathy-driven approach opened doors to partnerships and projects that might have seemed unattainable before. As she continued to evolve, Yale discovered that life offers countless lessons if you're willing to embrace them. Every encounter, every challenge was no longer a test to be passed, but a moment to learn and grow from. She started conducting workshops, sharing her insights, inviting others to explore the transformative power of empathy and understanding in their personal and professional lives. Participants left with a fresh perspective, inspired to apply these principles in their own arenas. Through these efforts, Yale's impact rippled outward, touching lives far beyond her immediate circle. Her journey was a testament to the profound influence one person could have when they lead with wisdom and a genuine desire to understand, leaving the world a more connected place.